Hello there. Good morning or afternoon or evening, whatever it is for you. I'm coming to you from beautiful Central Oregon today, and I've got lovely Mount Jefferson behind me. And I'm here to talk to you about faith. And you will need a piece of notebook paper. I would suggest that at least the top half be dedicated to writing down definitions about faith, and then leave some room at the bottom to write some definitions for religion and theology. Those terms sometimes are used interchangeably, and I'm going to differentiate them from each other. But mostly I'm going to talk about faith. I am not going to have any definitions up here. You're going to have to pause the video, maybe put on closed captioning, and write things down in your own words. There will be a test on this that will be open note. So the more detail you can write down, the more successful you will be on that quiz. And I'm going to put some quotes up here. You don't need to write those down. And I'm going to quote specific people. You don't need to know their names. I'm also going to refer to specific religious traditions and their practices. You don't need to know any of those. Those are just examples to illustrate. So we'll begin with the term faith and what that means. And learn how to move my cursor here. Faith, in some textbooks, and I'm borrowing from a lot of different places, is sometimes distinguished in three different components. There is one's belief, what one knows and understands on a rational head level. There's also trust, what one might call the heart level, the gut level, not what you think and know, but what feels right. And then there's the actions that one carries out, what Christians would call discipleship, but we could apply in other realms as well, that one can talk about the cognitive dimension, the extent to which one understands certain beliefs. If I have a lot of money, then X, Y, and Z. Or if I follow this God, then X, Y, Z. There's also kind of the heart level, like pursuing physical beauty seems like the right thing to do, despite what my head might say, or following the laws revealed by this prophet feel right, aside from the rational part of it. And then there's what one does about it, that if I believe that owning things is the most important thing in the whole wide world, then I should do something about it. I should go out and collect lots of money. I should find ways to earn money. Or if I believe that Muhammad is God's prophet, then I need to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. That there's what we do about it. And what we do about our faith, the way in which we express it, is what we call religion. And I'll get into this more later. It's the outward manifestation of our faith. And the things that we know about our faith is what we would also refer to as theology. The word theology, think about biology. Biology is literally, it means life talk. It's talk about life, or it's study of life. Or geology is the study of the earth and the talk about the earth. Theology is study of God, or talk about God. And they're the things that we know, or the ways in which we explain things. So I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. There's a high school teacher who wrote several books about teaching religion that I've always admired. And he used to put at the beginning of a page on the first test he gave students, faith is a blank blank. And he would ask them to fill in whatever they felt was the right answer. And the answer he got the most was, faith is a blind leap. And he said, I want you to think about faith not as a blind leap, but think about faith as a calculated risk. That based on what I understand, based on what I know, this is the way I'm going to live my life. And I might believe that there's a God that I'm serving, and it might be that I'm wrong. It's a risk. Or I might believe that there is no such thing as God and live my whole life trying to serve that God, or trying to live my life and be wrong about that. And there's a risk involved, no matter what one puts their faith in. Okay, getting back to more of a focus on faith. Two great thinkers from more than 2,000 years ago. Isaiah said that if you do not believe, you will not exist. That faith is part of existence for human beings. Or the Greek philosopher Aristotle said, whoever wishes to understand must believe, that there's this relationship between our heart and our head. We're not purely rational creatures, and we're more than just following our guts. That faith and reason are somehow tied to each other. I'm going to pull myself onto the page so I can see you all here. Okay. Another quote comes from a Protestant theologian that I really like named Paul Tillich. Oops, excuse me. Jumped ahead of him. Paul Tillich. And Tillich talked about faith being one's ultimate concern, the ultimate driver of one's life, the thing that really manifests who we are and what life is all about. I used to do an activity that was a little uncomfortable for students early in the semester in person, and I would ask for 2 courageous volunteers. And I would send one out into the hallway and close the door and seat the other one in a chair. And I would start at the far end of the room, and as I asked questions, I would get closer and closer and closer, and my questions would become a little bit more intense. And the first question was, why did you get out of bed this morning? And the student would usually kind of look at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, why did you get out of bed? Why? Well, I got out of bed to come to school. I'm like, really? You want to come to school? Why do you want to come to school? And they're like, well, I want to come to school to get a good education. I'm like, okay, so you got out of bed for a good education. Why? Why do you want to get a good education? Because I want to go to college. And then I would push, and I would get more and more intense. Why do you want to go to college? What do you want to study in college? What got you out of bed in the morning? Why do you want that career? Why do you want a family? Why do you want to own that? Why? Why did you get out of bed? And I would push, and I would also manipulate. Apologies. I would manipulate them so that eventually they would choose something that fundamentally got them out of bed in the morning. And then I would say, thank you very much, and have a seat. And then I would bring in the other student and start the same way. I would get closer and closer and closer and a little bit more intimidating, asking the same question. And I would manipulate, and I would try to get it so that one person's like, I want to be a doctor because I want to make a lot of money and own cool cars. And I might push the other person, I want to be a doctor because that's what we're supposed to do to serve other people. And what I would say is that's your ultimate concern. Faith is what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's what drives your life. Faith is what gives one's life meaning and direction. It's what you're ultimately concerned about. And then I would make apologies for pushing them into a corner like that. But that's what Tillich was getting at, that faith is what kind of consumes our life. It's what drives us. James Fowler is somebody who studied different stages of faith. And in one of his books, on the opening page, he had a quote that has always struck me, that anyone not about to kill themselves lives by faith. That if you don't have faith in something, there's not something that gets you out of bed in the morning, there's not something that drives your life, then why would you go on living? Now, there are people who commit suicide not because they don't have faith, but because they are dealing with mental illness, or they have faith in some ideal and they've been let down. But really, if one doesn't have something that gives their life meaning and direction, then why would you go on continuing to live? Why would you continue? That faith is an ultimate driver of life, if we go back to Aristotle and Isaiah. So I hope you're pausing and writing some of these things down. Again, not people and direct quotes, but the nature of what faith is. You are going through the stage of adolescence. You are going through all kinds of physical changes. It's change in the chemistry and synapses in your brain. You're going through lots of intellectual changes. Your relationships are changing with your friends, your family, your parents. You got all these hormones running through you. You're going through lots of emotional changes. And those changes also lead to spiritual changes. You are going through a fundamental change in your understanding of what drives your life. And there are 3 distinct phases of faith. As a child, one's faith is just whatever my parents have. My parents are Democrats, so I'm a Democrat. My parents are Republicans, so I'm a Republican. My parents are atheists, so I'm an atheist. My parents are Catholic, so I'm a Catholic. That childhood faith is unquestioning faith. It's faith that's inherited. It's faith that doesn't involve any choice. Adult faith, I'm skipping for a moment, adult faith, conversely, is faith that one has chosen. One has said, this is what's important to me. This is what drives my life. And the stage of faith in between, adolescent faith, can start at age 10. It can start at age 17. It can last years. It can last months. Some people never really get out of it. But adolescent faith is faith in transition. It's faith that's questioning the childhood beliefs that one has had, the things that one has been raised with, the assumptions one has, and making certain choices about what is going to drive one's life. It is normal. It is healthy. I tell parents all the time, I don't want to go to church with you. That's a normal part of adolescent faith. That it's a stage that we all go through, where we question and we explore and we come to, hopefully, an adult faith. So you've got a lot of stuff about faith here, about what drives our life. It's internal. I need to say that I do not grade students on what their faith is. First of all, I can't see it. I can see what they do, but I don't know what a student's faith is. I'm not going to grade you on your faith. You might have a very deep faith. I'm not giving you an A because of it. You might have a faith that's very different from mine. I'm not grading you down because of it. One could, presumably, measure somebody's religion. How often do you go to church, or how much community service do you do? I'm not here to grade your religious practices either. That's not my job. My job is to communicate certain ideas. This course is going to be on theology. What do you understand about Catholic faith? Just as we might study different aspects of the Muslim faith or Hinduism or Buddhism, we're going to learn about Catholic belief. You might have a very deep faith, but not be able to articulate it well, not understand theology, and that's going to affect your grade. You might not be very religious, but you understand Catholic teaching very, very well. That is what I'm grading you on, your understanding, your knowledge of theology. So, again, faith is internal. It's not something that one can measure. Religion is our outward expression. It's what we do to express our faith and also strengthen it. I'm a Muslim, so I give alms to the poor. And I'm a Muslim, so I go to worship to reinforce that, to hear the scriptures. So religion expresses and strengthens one's faith. It's the outward aspect of it. And theology is what we know about our faith. I do need to say here that the way in which I present Catholic theology is going to be persuasive. I believe it. That's why I'm a teacher at a Catholic school. But I don't want you to feel that like how you respond to that is about your grade at all. Everybody's trying to sell you on faith. Some people are trying to sell you on the faith that if you have lots of zeros in your bank account and own lots of things, then your life's great. Some people are trying to say, hey, join the Hare Krishnas, or become a Mormon. People are trying to convince you to put faith in physical beauty and have lots of plastic surgery and wear certain things and buy certain things. And everybody's trying to influence your faith, or lots of people are trying to influence your faith. And some of them have bigger advertising budgets than us religious people. I am going to present the ideas persuasively, but please understand you are being graded on your knowledge of theology, not how you practice your religion, not what you believe internally. This course is a course in theology. But understanding faith, understanding where one is at this stage of life, and that you're questioning, you're exploring, that's what makes this job exciting for me, is I get to hear your good questions. I get to journey with you. I get to sometimes give answers that are worthwhile or helpful to you. So I hope you enjoy this course. Again, if you need to rewatch this to take notes and be ready for the open note quiz, go do so. Thanks so much.